Hi, Cancer, Cancer rising. Let's talk a little about the astrology of 2026 and what it signifies for you. Here we have a chart from the last day of 2026. There's a lot of astrology between then and now. We definitely can't cover everything today, but I've honed in on three transits, three pieces of the astrology of 2026 that I think might be most significant and influential for you. Let's start with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction on February 20th in your 10th house. The 10th house is all about your career, your work, and your public image. I see themes around public image show up most often for students or people who are retired, but if you're working or looking for work, the 10th house usually relates to your career. I really can't overstate the importance of this conjunction. Saturn and Neptune, slow-moving planets, are meeting up for the first time since 1989, and they're doing that at the 0 degree point of Aries. This is a very important part of the zodiac. It's the very, very, very beginning, the first sign of the zodiac and the very first degree. These two planets coming together suggest that there could be some new beginnings when it comes to your work and your professional life this year, Cancer. And you may have had something of a preview of this during the summer of 2025. Between late May and September, these planets were together in Aries, but they never came into a conjunction. They never perfected their conjunction. They retrograded back into Pisces over the winter, and now on February 20th, they're coming into this conjunction in earnest. And Saturn and Neptune will be co-present in this house for the rest of the year. So thinking about your work, Cancer, there's a way in which Neptune can bring in our dreams, our fantasies, our goals and aspirations, the highest potentials of something. We can really shoot for the stars when it comes to Neptune. It's a bit of a spiritual signature. And then Saturn is incredibly grounding, mature, responsible, realistic. Saturn sort of shows the way. So there's something about this transit where it's sort of like you're taking your highest potentials, your dreams, and there's the potential to sort of make them real, to have them sort of actually show up in your experience. When this transit first hits around February 20th, it could be a little disorienting. But just know that as things smooth out, as we sort of move away from the direct conjunction and into the later parts of winter and early spring, this reset will begin to feel more comfortable. In other words, I think this is all for the best in the end, some sort of a change, a shift, a reset for you professionally. And this could just be about your mindset, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be the work itself. It could just be the way you approach it. I think it's for the good, but it might feel a little jarring or sort of confusing at first, Cancer. Ultimately, though, I think you are moving into a new stage of your professional journey. Saturn matures things, brings a certain kind of wisdom, and Neptune does too. You may have more responsibilities, more authority in your career now, or you could be playing with those themes in some way. It could feel, especially during the moment of the conjunction, as if that authority is sort of externalized. It could be something that you're interacting with at work. The really important thing to know too about this is that 0 point of Aries. This is a real creation degree. This is why I feel like it's a bit of a reset. There's some way in which what's happening for you at work in sort of the second half of 2026 and beyond is very different than it was the first half of the decade. That 0 degree point is so potent. It's so ripe for creation. It's sort of pure potential. So be very aware, Cancer, of what you're doing around this time because it's such new, fragile growth. Sort of any seed that you plant now at work is going to grow from this soil that it's being planted in. We're at that pure creation degree right now. So you want to be really intentional about what you're creating. And I think it might also just be good to have the heads up that you might be doing something really, really new and different. something you've never done before, maybe something you've never seen anyone do before. The outer planets this year in 2026 are sort of officially crossing into their new houses and signs. We have Pluto in Aquarius, Neptune here in Aries, and in the summer, Uranus will enter Gemini. And then we'll really be in this new era. And I think what's happening for you professionally could interact with those quickening changes. This could be a change that comes in a bit suddenly, a bit quickly. It's important to mention, though, that what matters most in the world is what we do, not the astrology, but how we actually show up every day and try to move our lives forward, doing the best we can. And our best varies day to day, right? We can't do more than we can do, but staying positive, staying focused, doing the best you can every day, being hopeful, believing in yourself, all of these things, Cancer, the astrology would support some movement that you can encourage through that mindset and through those actions. And then the astrology suggests that there could be some energy around late February and beyond that support sort of some major changes for you professionally, whether that is a mental shift or something in your tangible experience. Cancer, can you please take a look at this chart from April 17th and the Aries new moon that occurs on that day? Look at this loaded Aries sector of the chart. We have here Neptune, which we just talked about, and then Mercury, which is here in Aries now after a recent retrograde in Pisces at this time that occurred in late February and March. Then we have Mars, which enjoys being in Aries very much. Then we have Saturn, which we talked about a few minutes ago. Here we have Chiron, last few months in Aries. Chiron will be moving on to Taurus over the summer. I think that will be really good for you professionally too, Aries. And then we have the sun and the moon. And so this is our new moon signature. And I just think that this is an amazing chart. I've seen a lot of stelliums, but I think this one might take the win. I'm not sure. I've seen quite this many planets all together at once before. So there's a lot of energy going to these work, career, public image themes for you around this time, Cancer. If you haven't seen any manifestations from that Saturn-Neptune conjunction yet, I think you will at this time. This could be a time, a moment, not just on April 17th, but for the 2 weeks that follow, the month that follows. There's sort of a blooming or a blossoming of that Saturn-Neptune signature because of the help of all of these planets. The sun here, exalted in Aries, is illuminating some of that potential, making it more obvious for you to see and for others to see too. You might expect to be quite busy at work around this time or professionally in some way. And I would definitely pay attention to what's happening now because it could give some clues about what's unfolding for you in this new chapter, Cancer. Again, just remembering that the most important thing is that we do the best we can day to day. Never want astrology to sort of disempower us, for it to feel like our power is externalized, like these things are going to happen to us. It's not quite like that. We have to lean into these signatures for sure and do everything we can. I think it's interesting as well the way that Pluto is sextiling these planets at this time, many of these Aries planets. That's just sort of giving a little bit of new forward energy, intensity, undeniability to this time period. It was a part of the chart, a part of the year, and a part of the chart that I really wanted to talk with you about today, Cancer. And I also want to mention that we're sort of working with eclipse season right around these two dates that I've spoken about so far today. There's an eclipse on February 17th and March 3rd. So here by the 17th of April, that time is just ending. So I think that February, March, and April could all be periods of a lot of movement, a lot of change, a lot of things happening. And it feels new and different. It feels more mature. It feels more authentic. Perhaps like more is required of you. And also, I think perhaps some of this could take a little adjusting. It could feel a little much sometimes, especially during that eclipse window. But by the time we get here, Cancer, to mid April and to this new moon, I think all of that excitement and intensity will have smoothed out quite a bit. And you might be seeing some of the blooming potential of these transits. There's also a Venus retrograde that I want to talk with you about today, Cancer. Venus will go retrograde in Scorpio on October 3rd, enter Libra on October 25th, go direct on November 13th, and enter back into Scorpio on December 3rd. It's actually the Libra part of this Venus retrograde that I want to talk about today, Cancer. So, really, that period from October 25th through November 13th. But I want to leave the dates up for the entire Venus retrograde here, just for good measure. So, the fourth house here is all about your home and your family of origin. Sometimes I'll see current family members show up here, but most often it's about your family of origin, like your parents or other ancestors. And then the home piece is your home now, the physical home where you're living now. The fourth house is sort of all about your foundation. Venus going through a process here of retrograde is interesting. This could be a time where you're sort of rethinking, reevaluating, reimagining some of your relationships or some things from the past with your family of origin. There's some healing potential through something like this, but sort of like that Saturn Neptune conjunction, it could feel a little bit aggravating at first. This could also be a time where you're thinking about beautifying your house in some way. You might feel tempted to work on it. You might see things that you'd like to improve. Part of the reason I wanted to mention this retrograde here is that I would wait until Venus goes direct in Libra on November 13th to actually make any final decisions. Sometimes we can feel very excited about some aesthetic idea while Venus is retrograde, and then later we kind of regret it. We don't like it as much as we thought we would. Oh, all of this important stuff we've been talking about work and career, and then I'm saying, oh, maybe wait to paint the walls, wait to pick the paint color until Venus goes direct. It's a little bit frivolous compared to some of the other things that we're talking about, but I think it's good to pay attention to Venus retrogrades from a relationship perspective as well. And, Mercury is also retrograde at this time. Saturn and Neptune are both retrograde. There's just sort of more energy pulling into that contemplative place, perhaps about childhood in some way or family of origin. And so, whenever that's the case, there is the potential to sort of rethink things and do a little bit of healing, reach a different place of acceptance. And then, actually, once Venus goes direct, it's a great time to have some fun at home, maybe make some changes to the way things look around the home, and connect with members of your family of origin as well. Overall, 2026 is really a beautiful year. There's a lot of new, fresh potential to it. And there's sort of some ease as well. There's some really positive waves within there, like that one in April we were talking about. There's some really nice periods throughout the year. So I think there's a lot to look forward to here, Cancer. And there's definitely a lot more to talk about too. I'll be taking it month by month in my astrology reports. And also, I will be talking about this in my podcast, which I host at least twice a week on YouTube. Almost always twice a week, I should say. And I just appreciate you watching this, Cancer. I wish you a wonderful 2026.